Hey everyone, how's it going? So, first chance I've been out on the bike for a bit. I've been using this bike to get me to and from work, and that's about the extent of my riding lately. Anyway, on this video I just wanted to chat about the fall of Norton. So I've had a few goes at recording this, and technical issues with the camera, and just the content just wasn't good enough. And maybe it's a sign, maybe I don't really need to be rehashing on what quite a few channels are covered off on. The only bit of footage that was decent, oh, missed a gear, was actually chatting about the money cycle. So pretty much what you see here is how Norton raised money, and all three contributed to getting money out of the other ends of the triangle. So we started with customers putting in anywhere from £500 deposit right through to the full amount when they were contacted later. This produced orders, and because they had orders for the bikes to be built, they were able to go to the investors and the government to say, hey, look, we've got this many people that are prepared to buy the bikes. They've left a deposit. We just need the funds to get it going, to get the business viable and turning a profit. Now the government saw that there was investors involved, and they also had the orders. Investors would have seen government funding and the orders. And so really, if one of these had fallen off, just say if no one had actually put a deposit on, doesn't rub out that well, that would have destroyed the whole triangle. The investors would have said, well, you're not selling to anyone. Government was, well, you got no customers and no other investors. They needed all three for this to work, and work as long as it did, and keep them viable, even though they were selling only a handful of bikes. This is what I believe kept them going, and it's a shame because they're all victims of this triangle scheme. Oh, hello Husky. That was the only bit of useful insight I had, and my theory on how they were keeping the money coming. So Stuart Gunner was, from all reports, was quite charismatic, knew what to say, and just overall his confidence had the government, private buyers and customers for Norton all putting money down. But so the next you watch all the motorcycle magazines are now going to have where it went wrong for Norton, and pretty much rehashing what we already know, when in all honesty they could have been doing this well before people lost a lot of money, lost their retirement savings, and lost their deposits on the bikes. Why weren't companies asking these questions earlier? And pretty much you've got to look at the history of how magazines are going. Like I said in my last video, one of my favourite magazines is apparently no more, and with the changing technology, we got the internet, we got that much access to information now that there was a time magazines and newspapers were the main source for if you're researching, like when you'd go to buy a motorcycle, you'd be reading all the reviews on magazines, and you'd rely heavily on their expert advice. And we all, a lot of people would subscribe to their favourite magazines. Motorcyclists normally had 2 or 3 magazines they'd buy regularly, and in their peak, in the prior to the internet, just say if the company sold, let's just pick a number, say 75,000 magazines, that's 75,000 sales, and their theory was that that magazine would go through a set of hands. So potentially you're reaching over 200,000 people, and that was an easy sell to people wanting advertising space, and especially as it's the magazines, like in our case, the motorcycle magazines are dedicated to, you know, people that read them have a genuine interest in motorcycles. It was easy to sell. Now we've got the internet, people research the internet more thoroughly, and the irony is you've got channels like mine that will do reviews on bikes, and I do it out as a hobby. It's definitely not a profession, and you can see by my editing skills it's nothing professional about it, but it's my opinion. So people do their research and they look for common themes on all these motor vloggers websites, and you can see the shift. Like if you look at Triumph, they actually flew a whole heap of motor vloggers to a demo day for them where they got the test ride all their bikes. And a lot of the vloggers actually vlogged about going to this demo day, and then they'll do another vlog on each bike and how they found it. That's reaching, you know, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of viewers, just from, you know, I'd say I think they had about 20 motor vloggers. I think that's what I was estimating. And I follow most of their channels, and they all gave their input on it. You had all different walk people, men, women, experienced riders, inexperienced riders. They were all there to give their opinion on Triumph's bikes, and that reaches far greater mass than what these magazines do. Now unfortunately the magazines, they're not getting the revenue, so they've got to keep advertising coming in. What's the best way to keep advertising coming in? Keeping their clients happy, the ones that pay for the advertising space. And it's quite common in the Australian media landscape, if you give a bad review, that manufacturer or distributor pretty much blacklists you from getting any other vehicles to review. And this was quite a common occurrence. So the magazines, to keep the advertisers happy, would pretty much be doing puff pieces, and, you know, just writing about all the positive things of the motorcycles, and not actually asking the deep questions that they should be asking. And this in turn, it come across, it looked like you're buying a magazine now. You're pretty much just paying for advertising spin, and that pushes people away because they actually want to hear the truth about a motorcycle. You know, what's its strengths, what's its actual weaknesses, you know, does it have some issues? But it's sort of a vicious cycle. You know, you say something bad about a motorcycle magazine, you lose advertising revenue, but in turn you're putting off the readers, because they're going to see through all the rubbish, especially now with the way we've got access to to more information than we've had access to previous. And I believe the likes of Norton took advantage of this. Magazines didn't want to potentially ruin an income stream, and there was a lot of interest in Norton, and I think they were hoping to get some another advertising stream through Norton and the distributors. So they didn't want to ask the tough questions when they should have been asking, you know, why is it so hard to produce one of their more economical bikes, which I think was going to be the Norton Atlas. It was meant to be an affordable Norton. Why it was taking them so long to set up the production line, and none of these questions were asked. Instead, they'd go through puff pieces. You know, Norton, or the director of Norton, would have them focus on that they were racing. Norton hired some very reputable racers to do the Isle of Man TT, and there's a good reason none of them saw out their contracts. It's because Norton wasn't delivering the bike they needed to be competitive. And one thing you've got to know about racers, they're very competitive creatures. They don't want to just finish the race, they want to win it, and they don't want to be on uncompetitive machinery. And you're going to see all this sort of stuff come out now, but in my eyes, the magazines, they've left it too late. by them not asking the tough questions and not, you know, potentially protecting, if they'd asked the tough questions in the first place or done some investigation, they might have been able to reveal that Norton was using some potentially cheap parts. Like, you know, when you're buying a premium motorcycle, you shouldn't be using cheap parts in it in any way, shape or form. I remember reading one article, it was about a Hasketh. Now Hasketh, they were trying to release a bike, but it was only in very small numbers. They're a boutique motorcycle builder, so they're only doing small numbers, using high-end parts like, yeah, S&S motor, you know, top of the line suspension. And yeah, as interesting as those bikes are, it's not something that the regular punters like you and me are going to be able to ever afford. But the opening intro was Hasketh's Hasketh's following the likes of Triumph, Norton, and there was one other manufacturer. Now the fact that they're saying Triumph and Norton in the same breath, Norton was producing 50,000 odd bikes a year, and Norton was nowhere near that. It was quite unfair to Triumph, because Triumph were producing bikes, and it took time and a lot of money. Yeah. And it's something Bloor Industries understood. It wasn't going to be an overnight one, and it was going to require a lot of investment. Oh yeah, first gear. There we go. So magazines painting Norton as successful as Triumph was just insulting to readers. It was misleading, and they really should have known better. Especially with, you know, the amount of time they were saying they were going to release that 650 Atlas. Should have set red flags right there and then, and needing people to put deposits down for a cheap bike that wasn't in, like a more affordable Norton that wasn't even in production yet. More red flags. Now I know it's easy for, you know, for me to come across and say, oh, you know, hindsight, you should have seen that, and why didn't I ask the questions? Well, end of the day, that's not my job. I do this out of a hobby. Journalists should know better, and you know, to a degree I think some of them did know. They should have, yeah, these red flags come up, but the sheer fact that they could possibly jeopardize a revenue stream or put a distributor offside and lose advertising revenue, I believe that's what stopped them in the long run. That's why I said in my last video, I'd be surprised if any motorcycle magazines survive this latest financial crisis, because at the end of the day, it's so much easier to look up YouTube, look up online opinions of just about everything out there. Anyway, that's just my little rant about magazines. They've got to risk offending the distributors and manufacturers and keep some sort of credibility. They're more likely to keep people buying the magazines, or they can keep going on their merry way and just producing puff pieces and sucking up to the manufacturers and distributors and slowly lose their readership and eventually their jobs. Not a position I'd really want to be in. Anyway, on that note, thanks very much for watching. Keep yourself well protected. You know, in Australia we got every few days the what we can and can't do changes, and I hope wherever you're watching from that your government's more decisive than that. And if you're in Australia, don't just rely on the government, you know, take it on yourself to know what's the right and wrong thing to do. Alright guys, take care, and I'll see you on the next vid.